All right, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at the predictions for the British Academy Awards. These are coming up. Sorry, on Sunday the 18th, which is actually 2 weeks away from the Academy Awards, and a little less than 2 weeks away from the Independent Spirit Awards. Those are two, big ones left. Obviously, BAFTA. Most of the other Guild Awards are pretty much done. I mean, we've got like, I don't know what's left. We did visual effects earlier this week, and couple other things, but basically most of the major guilds are done. WGA's done, Producers Guild is done, Directors Guild is done, and we're going to start just up at the top here for BAFTA for their Best Film category. They only have 5 nominees, and as we've seen actually in the past 3 years here at BAFTA, their last 3 Best Film winners have lost the Oscar for Best Picture. Those are Boyhood, they went with that over Birdman. They went with The Revenant over Spotlight, and they went with, as just about everybody else did last year, La La Land over Moonlight. Anyway, so this year, just to recap, the nominees here are 3 Billboards, The Shape of Water, Dunkirk, Call Me By Your Name, and Darkest Hour. Of these 5, I think it's really down to 3. 3 Billboards, Dunkirk, and Shape of Water. Darkest Hour has about 7 or 8 nominations total, but I think there's a couple other places they can award it, so I don't see it as a big threat in this category. And also, Call Me By Your Name, it's only got 4 nominations. That's the least of any of these 5 film nominees, so I don't see that one doing it. One thing, though, it does have director, which Darkest Hour doesn't, but yeah, otherwise it just got picture, actor and screenplay. So it didn't get a whole bunch of love. No supporting nominations. They don't have an original song category, otherwise it maybe would have gotten one there. Anyway, so yeah, this comes down to 3 Billboards, Dunkirk, or Shape of Water. Now, originally I was thinking Dunkirk here had, if it wasn't going to win, it was definitely going to be a close second. I still think it's going to be tight coming down to these 3, because right now Shape of Water and 3 Billboards are more heavy favorites for Best Picture. You've got your 2 separate camps there. Also, Get Out is starting to build a little bit of steam now after the WGA award. But that all being said, though, since Get Out is not a nominee here for Best Film, those 2 are the ones that are going to really duke it out at the Oscars for Best Picture, at least based off of these nominations here. And Dunkirk, though, I could see it kind of splitting. If those other 2 movies split votes and Dunkirk gets enough love, it could get the win here. Now, number one, we have to remember, of course, that this is, probably the most, I was going to say the most well-known, but it's definitely one of the more significant, if it's not the most well-known, parts of World War II from the perspective of Great Britain, before U.S. involvement in World War II and so on. And while it's not set in Britain, it is set in France, and it's, of course, it's the, evacuation and of Dunkirk and everything. So it's a major event, of course, in World War II. And really, it's one of those, big British World War II epics. We haven't really seen those for a while here. So it's a possibility. I'm not going to totally throw it out there that it can't win. It's, and it's got director, it doesn't have any screenplay or acting nominations, but it's got all the rest that you would need there, including all the tech categories. It's not up for British film for whatever reason. I don't know if it wasn't eligible or what it was, because you have to have a British producer to be eligible for that, which Emma Thomas and Chris Nolan are the producers on that. I believe Chris Nolan's a producer. So, obviously he's from Britain there. So I don't know why that one, for whatever reason, they went with Darkest Hour. 3 Billboards is also over there in British film. Paddington 2. We'll get to that category in a little bit. But, yeah, for whatever reason, it missed out there. So maybe that is a sign that maybe maybe it is 3rd place and it's not quite as high up as the other 2. But right now, I'm thinking I'm going with 3 Billboards here. Now, number 1, it is from an Irish filmmaker. That's Martin McDonagh. It's got a few other craftsmen and actresses and stuff that are from Britain, so that definitely helps. It's also, other than Shape of Water, the most nominated film over here. I think it had 9 nominations, if I remember correctly. So it did very well over here. And it's up for director, it's up for both of the supporting actors and actress, it's up for screenplay. It even got into something like cinematography, which is really good over here. So yeah, I'm thinking this one is going to win, but Shape of Water I would look out for too. And another thing, like we were talking about the last 3 years, they've been wrong. If Shape of Water wins here, that's another sign that maybe they'll go with something else for Best Picture at the Oscars, because like I said, they've been wrong the last 3 years. So we'll see. Or if maybe they do go with Three Billboards, then okay, that's a sign that they missed it again, and that could be another one that's makes it 4 years in a row. So maybe based on that, I might switch my Best Picture prediction based on who loses over here. Okay, let's go over to Director now. The nominees here are Guillermo del Toro for Shape of Water, Martin McDonagh for Three Billboards, Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Denis Villeneuve for Blade Runner 2049, and Luca Guadagnino for Call Me By Your Name. Yeah, this Guillermo del Toro. This one's done. Now, I think now Nolan has been a pretty formidable force here through most of the season. At least we've been saying, I have at least, that it's been between Nolan and Del Toro pretty much from the start. After I got off my Call Me By Your Name Best Picture prediction, after I abandoned that, I was thinking, yeah, it's probably Del Toro or Nolan for director. So, and again, with that whole British epic thing, they could go with Nolan here. I wouldn't be surprised. He's never won a BAFTA, at least for directing. I think he was nominated, I think, the year of, I'm pretty sure he was nominated either the year of Inception or The Dark Knight. I'm going to double check this actually right now while I'm thinking about it, because I'm sure he's been nominated here for BAFTA before. Yes, he was nominated for director for Inception. That's what it was. I knew it was one of those two. But anyways, so he was nominated there. Didn't win any of... Actually, it was up for screenplay and film as well that he personally received nominations for. He didn't win any of those either. So he has never won here at BAFTA. And coming from Britain, I think this would really help him. I think Del Toro otherwise is way too far ahead after the DGA win and the Globe win, Critics' Choice, in addition to a few other critics' prizes here and there for direction. So I don't think it's enough if he wins here on Sunday for him to all of a sudden turn around and take Best Director at the Oscars. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility. But I would still say Guillermo is the heavy favorite here. Okay, let's switch over to Best British Film. We were talking about this one a little bit. So we had, Three Billboards nominated here. Paddington 2, Darkest Hour, Lady Macbeth, God's Own Country, and The Death of Stalin. So of these six, really we're just talking about two here, and that's obviously Darkest Hour and Three Billboards. And I'm going with Darkest Hour on this one because, number one, it kind of, it's the biopic, of course, about Winston Churchill. It kind of reminds me back when we had Imitation Game and Theory of Everything kind of battling it out for this category. I picked Imitation Game, which in retrospect, maybe, was a bad choice because, number one, it kind of was a film that really criticized the British government and the British hierarchy and everybody for, punishing, what's his name, Alan Turing for his homosexuality. So that, it kind of made everybody look bad at the time. Of course, so that one I can understand. Even though I think it had more nominations than Theory of Everything did, or if it didn't, they were pretty close, from what I recall at least. I remember Theory of Everything getting in for director for whatever stupid reason. I still have my daggers out for that movie. But yeah, this one, Darkest Hour, I was gonna say Dunkirk, but Churchill, yeah, he's a pretty clean figure in this one. They don't really make him out to be too much of a bad guy. He is, rather historic figure, and they stay true to that for the most part in the film. So I think that's a thing there. It's not in for director, which Three Billboards is, but it is, like I said, also up for Best Film. It's got, Best Actor, Supporting Actress. It didn't get in for Screenplay either, but it is a really complicated year for that category. It did well in the craft categories, so we know overall they like it. I think they'll go with it there because another thing, too, I looked up, if Three Billboards does win Best Film, and, it's not common for Best British Film and Best Film overall to overlap. The last time that happened was The King's Speech back in 2010, and then before that, you have to go all the way back to, like, the 60s, I think I had looked up, or at least as far back as my records go. It was something like the 60s where it was pretty consistent that Best British Film would also take Best Film. I believe they were still separate. Yeah, the BAFTA thing, after, I think it was 20, I was going to say 2010, but it was before that. It was like closer to like 2007, 2008 is when they did this big change in their voting, because before they would mark who was eligible each year kind of in different segments, where all of a sudden if you're eligible at the Oscars this year, you might not be eligible for BAFTA until the following year, or if you're eligible for BAFTA this year, you might not, depending on when you released, you might not be eligible for the Oscars until the following year. So it was kind of a weird thing, and it would be very rare for somebody, especially in like acting races and stuff, to win over here and then win at the Oscars, especially since their awards calendar also was not really reflective upon the Academy voting pattern and the season there. So since that's been changed, now we're kind of more reliant on BAFTA than we have ever been in history. So as far as, the overlap of Best Film and Best British Film, it was very, very common back in the early days of BAFTA, back in the 60s and so on. Since then, King's Speech is about it. It's since, I can't remember, I think there was one other before that, in that almost 50-year gap there, but I can't remember which one it is now. So, so I think if that stays true, then they're going to go with Darkest Hour here to give it a big prize in that way. Okay, moving on from that, let's go over to the acting categories here. Best Actor, I think this is Gary Oldman. That one's locked, stocked, ready to go. Actress, Frances McDormand. I think that one's also ready to go. Supporting Actor, I'm going with Sam Rockwell here. Yeah, it's pretty much a done deal there. Supporting Actress. Now this one I've been giving a little more thought to recently, because we do have to consider that of these 5 nominees, they are, just to remind you, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread, Kristen Scott Thomas for Darkest Hour, and Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water. Of these 5 here, of course, Laurie, Allison, Octavia, and Leslie are nominated at the Oscars. Kristen Scott Thomas did not get in. Phantom Thread, I've been thinking about this too at the Oscars too. It's nominated for 6 categories. It's one of the best film nominations at the Best Picture nominees, I should say, at the Oscars. Up for director, up for actor, up for costumes, and what's the other one? Score. So it did well. What other film from a few years ago had 6 nominations, was consistently a presence, if not a big presence, it was at least a presence, at most of the award ceremonies? Bridge of Spies. And what was the biggest surprise that night? Bridge of Spies winning supporting actor for Mark Rylance. Now, Leslie Manville in Phantom Thread, that's something I can totally see happening. And where was the one place where Mark Rylance scored his first win and finally, even though he wasn't there to accept, had a win in the bag? And that was here at BAFTA. Again, the nationality of Mark Rylance from being over here at BAFTA, in Britain, I should say. Since he's from there, that probably helped him. Leslie also benefits from that. Kristen Scott Thomas also benefits from that. The other 3 are all American there. But that being said, though, Phantom Thread was not a huge player over here. It got in for supporting actress, got in for actor, got in for costumes, and I think it's in for score too. And I think that was it. It only got the 4 there. Yeah. So it's not, it wasn't as well liked. Like Bridge of Spies, you have to remember at BAFTA that year was up for 9 nominations, I believe. It was 9 or 8 or 9, one of those, including Spielberg for director, and it got in for film when there was only 5 categories. Carol also got about the same. I think it was, they were both 9 nominations, surprisingly. And The Revenant also did very, very well. So that kind of explained why they went with Bridge of Spies in that way. Whereas, Phantom Thread, on the other hand, only has 3 other nominations outside of Leslie, and they're not, other than Daniel Day-Lewis, they're not in any of the other top categories. So I am sticking with Allison Janney here. Also, you have to remember, I, Tonya was up for, it's up for screenplay here, it's up for actress, it's up for costumes, of all things, it's up for editing, and there was one more, I forgot what it was now. Screenplay, actress, supporting actress. 5. Okay, editing, costumes, actress, supporting actress, and screenplay. That's 5. So, and I kind of mentioned it the other day. I said, if BAFTA had 10 nominees for Best Film, or had that sliding scale like the Oscars have, I, Tonya probably would have been the next one of the next nominees for for Best Film. Well, Blade Runner also had a good number of nominations, and that one got in for Director, too, so that wouldn't be surprising. Paddington 2 would probably make the list, too. Yeah. So yeah, I am worried about Leslie Manville winning this. I don't. Lady Bird did not score well over here. It's only in for screenplay. Here for Laurie Metcalf and lead actress for Saoirse, but no, it's not going to happen. If Saoirse couldn't win for Brooklyn a couple years ago, for playing, being an immigrant from Ireland coming over to the United States in a big kind of story like that, yeah, I don't see her toppling Frances this year. Okay, go over to the screenplay categories now. Adapted screenplay, yeah, this one's easy. It's Call Me by Your Name. That one's done. Original screenplay, we've got the same contenders at the Oscars as we do here, except what's the fifth one? Big Sick is also nominated at the Oscars. I, Tonya is the last one here, but that one's not going to win. And as we recently saw, this plagiarism thing around Guillermo del Toro. I've only read the 2 stories since then. I haven't really read much else. So I still think that one it's in the playing field there, but it's not as it's not in play as much as the other 3 contenders are: Lady Bird, Get Out, and 3 Billboards. And I think this one goes to 3 Billboards much easier than it does at the Oscars, because number 1, Get Out, is nominated here for original screenplay and Best Actor for Daniel Kaluuya, who is also from Britain as well. I didn't know that until this nomination came out, actually, when the BAFTA nominations were announced. And Lady Bird is also here, but again, those 2 just didn't fare as well over here as they did at the Oscars. So I think that clears the way for 3 Billboards for the win there. Okay, just going through the rest of the categories here. Most of these should be pretty quick. Cinematography is Blade Runner. I think that's going to hold up. Deakins, gosh, I could have sworn he's won over here at BAFTA before. Let me just... Deakins... Let me get his list pulled up here. Actually, yeah, this is true. He's been nominated here... let me do the count here again. 8 times, including this one for Blade Runner. He won for True Grit, he won for No Country for Old Men, and he won for The Man Who Wasn't There. So he's already been awarded 3 times by BAFTA. So I actually think Dunkirk and Shape of Water are more in contention here than maybe some other people do. So this one, I would originally was thinking just Blade Runner done. And Blade Runner is my prediction, by the way. I'll keep it there because he's won like Critics' Choice. He's won most of these major prizes for cinematography through the year. Rachel Morrison has also picked up some for Mudbound. The name of the cinematographer on Shape of Water escapes me, but I believe he's picked up a couple. Dunkirk is Hoyte van Hoya or something like that. I need to learn his name because he's a very gifted cinematographer. He's actually he did Interstellar before this. That would be Wally Pfister is usually his Nolan's DP, but Hoyte van Hoya, he should have been nominated for Interstellar. That was one of the best parts of that movie. Way better than the script. Way better than some of the acting and stuff. It was beautifully shot. And Dunkirk, I agree also. Yes, it's a beautifully shot film, and Dunkirk is definitely in contention here. Shape of Water, I think, it takes director. It takes probably a few other ones here. We'll get to them in a minute here. But, otherwise it's not going to be as big a player here. If it does end up with Best Film, okay, then it gets 4, maybe 5 awards total. Dunkirk, on the other hand, I have only winning 2 other ones here. So they could go 3 for Dunkirk and give it here. And again, maybe if it does win film, that gets it up to 4. But otherwise, 3 Billboards looks like it'll get, at least by my calculations, film, actress, supporting actor, screenplay, and that's 4. So... yeah, I don't really see any film sweeping BAFTA, which didn't happen last year. La La Land only won, I think, 5 or 6 here last year. It won film, director, actress. It won for, didn't win for screenplay. What was I going to say? It won for score. Cinematography, I believe it won. It didn't win costumes. I don't think it even won editing. I can't remember what it was. I think it won sound, maybe. Yeah, it only won 5 or 6, so it was not. That was the first time we'd really seen La La Land not fully sweep like it did at the Globes and it did at Critics' Choice, where it was pretty much most things it was up for, it won. So yeah, BAFTA, they're not traditionally. They don't always do that. like the Birdman year, Birdman only won one BAFTA, and then Grand Budapest and Boyhood kind of split off and took off. I think it was 4 or 5 each after that. Well, no. Boyhood had 3 for sure, with supporting actress, director, picture. I think it won those 3 only. Grand Budapest won, I think, 4 or 5 BAFTAs. That one was probably the last one to do that well. The Revenant won 4, I want to say. 3, 4. No, actually, no. That one won 5 or 6, actually, now I'm thinking about it, because it won sound over here. That was the last time, really, that BAFTA got Best Sound wrong, because they usually, their winner for Best Sound usually does very well at the Oscars, but actually for Best Sound, I'm going to bring this back up. I could have sworn they went with Arrival last year. That's right, and Arrival ended up winning sound editing. So that one we all ignored it and went with I think it was Hacksaw Ridge over there at for film editing or sound editing. Excuse me. It won for film editing and sound mixing, surprisingly. But yeah, otherwise it's traditionally been known that the best sound winner here in this category over here at BAFTA goes on to win the Oscar. Like Whiplash, Gravity, Les Mis, Hugo, Inception, Hurt Locker, so on and so forth. Yeah, The Revenant was really the last time they got that one wrong because Mad Max won both sound categories at the Oscars. And yeah, like I said, Arrival got one of them last year. So, but going back to this one here for cinematography, it's, yeah, now that we're totally off track here, sorry. I do think it'll be Blade Runner. I think mostly everybody's fallen into line on Roger Deakins. So, and some of those other award shows have also awarded him previous times. So yeah, Phantom Thread I think is going to win for costume design. That's done. Film editing, Dunkirk. Next, makeup and hairstyling, Darkest Hour. Check. Production design, Shape of Water. I think that one's good to go. Score, Shape of Water, that one's done. Sound, Dunkirk, that one's done. Visual effects, I think they'll go with War for the Planet of the Apes here. I believe BAFTA went with, okay, look this one up too. Okay, now I can't get to it. Let's just go down. I gotta find the visual effects. Here we go. It'll pull up for me. I was thinking back to whether or not Dawn for the Planet of the Apes won here. It didn't back in 2014. They went with Interstellar, which won the Oscar as well. So they have, and actually, let me see, did they give Rise? No, they didn't. They went with the right choice there, Harry Potter, that year. But anyway, so yeah, they've not awarded any of these newer Planet of the Apes films. So kind of the same in the same line as the Oscars too. So I think they'll go with War for the Planet of the Apes here. It's not a strong bet by any means, but I think they'll go with that one there. Otherwise, I think Blade Runner is in close competition. Shape of Water is also up there. Dunkirk is up there, and Star Wars to fill out the category there. Really, all 5 of them have somewhat of a shot. I mean, I wouldn't discount any of them right now, but probably War for the Planet of the Apes wins that one. For animated feature, that one goes to Coco. That one's done. For documentary, I think I'm going to go to name these 5 off. We've got Jane, I'm Not Your Negro, City of Ghosts, Icarus, and An Inconvenient Sequel. I'll go with Jane on this one. Jane has won everything else, even though it wasn't nominated at the Oscars. It I think has that staying power. I'm Not Your Negro did not win because it was, like we were talking about earlier with this, you'll compete one year here and a different year at the Oscars. This one was at the Oscars last year, I believe, so and it wasn't eligible for BAFTA until this year. It picked up the nomination finally. And I'm Not Your Negro did not really win any of the major awards last year. It won a couple of the smaller early ones, like I think it won the Gotham and stuff like that. But so it's in play, I think. And also Icarus is up here too. That one's nominated at the Oscars. And City of Ghosts is oh wait, City of Ghosts I don't think got in, did it? I can't remember if it did now. Let me see here. No, yeah, that's right. They skipped over it at the Oscars. So really, the only one nominated here at at BAFTA that's nominated at the Oscars is Icarus. So they could go with Icarus just because it is the only one, but I don't know. I don't think, unlike the Globes and Critics' Choice and sometimes SAG, BAFTA really doesn't care about trying to predict the Oscars. They just trying to pick their own favorites here. So I think I'll just go with Jane as the safe pick there. Okay, they also have Best Foreign Film. This one, the nominees are Elle, Loveless, The Salesman, The Handmaiden, and First They Killed My Father. I'm going to go, surprisingly, I'm going to go against the grain on this one. Most people are picking Elle to win this. I'm going to go with The Salesman since it did win the Oscar. It's got that political message, which is a little less relevant over here in the UK than it is over in the States, which, of course, was all about, I think his name was Asghar Farhadi, the director who was not allowed membership into the States. I think the story was that he was not allowed. And then also, because of the immigration ban, he wanted to speak out against that. So it did win the Oscar last year. It won a few of the other foreign film prizes. Elle was also up there. It won the Globe, and it won a couple others. So Elle is definitely, for sure, in contention here. I think it's between those two. I'll just go with The Salesman on that one, though. All right, and the last category is Rising Star Award. The nominees here are Timothée Chalamet, Daniel Kaluuya, Tessa Thompson, Florence Pugh, and Josh O'Connor. I think they'll go with Timothée in this one. Daniel Kaluuya is also nominated for Best Actor. The other three were in films, but weren't individually nominated in any of the acting categories. So, yeah, I'll go with Timothée on this one since he's between any of the other Best Actor nominees. He's probably the one who gets the most votes after Gary Oldman in most of these ceremonies. So, yeah, I think that's the way they're going to go on that. All right, well, that's really all I've got for now. That's going to wrap it up. So, yeah, once again, the British Awards are on Sunday. I do not have BBC America. I'm not going to be able to watch them, so I'll just, be on the computer that day, just live update, keep hitting the refresh button until they're all done. Yeah, I'll probably come back and do an after show on that, just kind of briefly discuss what won, what didn't win, what this means for the Oscars, so on and so forth. So, yeah, we'll get back to that on Sunday. All right, that's going to be it for now. Yeah, I'll be back on Sunday. We'll recap that, and, yeah, we'll see where we go from there.